we're looking at immediate transitions utilizing the technology and the assets we currently have to utilize this blockchain technology to create that parallel system.
To mirror what is happening in the current council, the current budget that's there, and people are witnessing how the system would function and be more efficient.
Project Override.
The beginning.
Session 5.
Session 5, Project Override. We're talking about governance.
Yeah, what is governance? Do we need it?
Do we really need government?
Yeah, exactly.
And this brings in the QUORUM voting protocol.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at government, what is it really doing? From where I'm sitting, I see it as administrating public matters. And there are traditionally three branches of government: the legislative, writing laws; the executive, executing those laws, carrying them out; and the judiciary, which is reviewing those laws and applying them where they need to be applied.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there is the unspoken branch of government, which kind of overlaps all of them, which is the administrative branch of government. And the administrative branch of government is really just the clerks, the people who are receiving mail, receiving these things back and forth that the citizens are filing in, or submitting applications, handling a driver's license form. They are the administrators within the government handling special cases for people, because we can't always apply carte blanche generalization across all public. There is always special circumstances.
Yeah.
So I ask you, do you believe our current government here in Canada is a true democracy?
Absolutely not. I never have. Yeah, for a variety of reasons. But yeah, just the lack of my ability to directly participate in any of the decisions that affect my life. And the illusion of a vote being an actual contribution to my community, both of those things never resonated for me, that in terms of like what we're educated as what democracy actually is. We have an idea, we've been told throughout our lives, through our education, through state-sponsored education at that, generally, that the idea of democracy exists and is alive and well in our country. But that is really not the case.
No, yeah, it really isn't. I've seen this. I've participated in voting in federal elections on a macro scale. I've ripped up my ballot just to say I did vote, but of course I spoiled my ballot because I don't believe in the process. I believe it's corrupt.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, we're told that the democracy is representative, and of course we've talked about contracts and giving over a free will to a representative that may or may not fulfill those promises that he's going to carry out for us in the public sphere. So these politicians and these representatives, we're looking at a new word for them. If we're creating a parallel running system, well, we can't stay with the old words. We got to change the word. So we came up with
public coordinator. Yeah. Which I thought was a nice, very neutral and representative term that actually embodies the role that, a politician should be adopting, because really they're a manager of accounts. If you look at one of the definitions from like the Oxford Dictionary of governing, it's to manage the business of people. Really, a government is there not to oversee your individual day to day, not to mandate specific health protocols, not to do any of those things that we're witnessing now in our country. What it's there to do is to oversee the business of that nation or that community, and to define what business is. Well, that's the contracts we're talking about. That's the ability to self-determine what you want to participate in, how and where you want to spend your money, how and where you want to send your kids to school, which brings up another big topic, which is education, which ties back to the concept, which I think is really core to Project Override and that vision, which is the Quorum Protocol.
The
So
Quorum Protocol, yeah, right.
Yeah.
We stated we're in direct competition with the World Economic Forum and their agenda. And so the agendas being carried out affect the public all the way down to the public education system, what our children are being taught in schools. And so when we look at the quorum voting protocol, we're going to give an example here. Currently, the WEF has turned our democracy into what seems to me like a corporate lobbying fascist dictatorship. That's what it feels like over the last 2 years. And I doubt that they're going to stop with their behavior. So if we, for instance, put forward this quorum voting protocol, we're talking about a continuous voting mechanism. There is a voting period that is 45 days, and it's 45, 45, 45. It just continues. And so at the start of this 45-day voting period, there is the ability for any citizen to submit a proposal for the public to vote on. And this public is representative to your geographic region. Mm-hmm. We identified that on a micro scale, on a local level, is the only way we can start this. So, for example, we're in Duncan right now, and say we have found that someone had submitted a proposal and they said, here in Duncan, we do not want our kids, say it's between an age range from early on preschool all the way till, say, high school. We do not want them learning about gender ideology. This person puts forward the proposal. There is a 21-day period where anyone in this Duncan region, this geographic region, can submit a vote, yes, no. There's a second 21-day period. There's discussion that takes place during that 21-day period. There's an opportunity for more people to come in, participate. The second 21-day period, people log yes, no vote. So you have two tallies for the first 21 days, a second tally for the second 21 days. You have the opportunity to change your vote depending on how discourse happens.
Yeah.
And now for the day 42 to 45. It just so happens the only people that are interested in voting for this proposal are people who are for gender ideology. The people that maybe haven't participated or are unaware that this poll is going on, they're not interested in voting. But it just came across their doorstep that there's a bunch of people pushing forward teaching this to our children. So now there's this 3-day window, which I refer to as the override switch. Really, it's a safeguard against mob mentality. Mm-hmm. And now this person who has realized that there's a bunch of people in their community, they want to push forward this gender ideology, teaching that to children. Now there's an opportunity for me or somebody else to call up friends, say, hey, we all need to come together and cancel this proposal. So with quorum, there's a minimum amount of people that must participate. So at this time, we're using democracy in its direct form, so direct democracy. We're voting on issues of importance directly, and we're getting a majority vote. And therefore, in this example, these people have decided that they do not want gender ideology in their schools, and that proposal has been canceled in totality. If it was successfully went through, there is going to be a log of, no, we do not want our kids to be taught gender ideology, and that would be logged as a store of perception on the immutable blockchain for that area. So again, we're just talking about the technology and how we can have consensus through this voting mechanism we're referring to as the quorum voting protocol, in which case we can change the direction of our locales. So with that comes up the point of,
well, how do you verify that you live in a certain area? There's a lot of stuff we're going to talk on, but one of the ways that you can ensure that this is a transparent function is through essentially community-based verification. So in terms of like ensuring that, say, I am voting on that, issue for education with my child in that area. Well, how do we know that I'm from this area? How do we know that I, should have a voice in this? And that ties into another technology that you've, discovered, I guess you could say. But
Right.
yeah, so if you want to speak a bit on that.
Right. So we're looking at how to verify and use technology to verify for a high degree of confidence that the people who are in your area voting are who they say they are and they actually live there. So currently there's quite a few different blockchain projects that have verification standards. Some of them that I've seen out there, they're using third parties to reference your driver's license, passport to verify you are living where you say you're living. The only problem with that is when we discussed contracts earlier, the fundamental verifier of that ID or passport is a corrupt state. And what we're looking at, our opinion, is a corrupt state. So an override by the people for the people, building a parallel system, we're using the people to verify. And so the system that we've found that could be implemented, we're looking at this as an option, is the technology known as foam.
Foam is building a decentralized proof of location protocol that offers a higher level of security and network strength than conventional location-based services. To become a location service provider, a radio beacon stakes a safety deposit of foam tokens to participate in the network as a zone anchor and searches 3 other beacons nearby. Once 4 zone anchors are connected, they ping messages back and forth to synchronize their clocks. After reaching consensus on the time, a zone is established.
And this is a geographical proof of location standard. It's a proof of location protocol wherein that you have created a fault tolerant way of verifying location. So traditionally we have our phones, we have GPS, and through GPS we can know where we are, prove where other people are. Unfortunately with GPS, it has the ability to be spoofed. So a classic example is Pokemon Go. If you've ever played that game on your smartphone, you can hack it, appear in a location that you are not, and of course game the system. So we're looking at restricting the gaming of this system to have a high degree of confidence that when we're voting in this system, it can maintain that confidence. So foam, you can go to the website foam.space, and this is a proof of presence, proof of location standard. So they have set up these radios. Through this radio, a permissionless radio band, that you take 4 anchors, they're called zone anchors. It creates a location zone. So if you could imagine the size of a basketball court or a large field, or simply the block that your courthouse or your main post office is at. Somewhere in your city or your town, there's an area set up that at some point in time, if you want to be verified for a poll, you have to enter into this space at a certain time or certain period of time where other people are verifying. You are a verifier and you're being verified by others. So you would, in this idea, you simply have your profile, which could be completely private. Maybe it's a string of letters and numbers or your unique name for your ID. And you submit a picture. And so all you're doing when you go into this zone is you're saying, I'm here in this zone, I live here, and I'm saying this picture matches my physical face. Mm-hmm. So we're not utilizing video conferencing, we're physically going to a space, you're seeing somebody else, their profile pops up, oh, look at that, their face matches what the picture they've submitted is their face. I'm gonna verify them and say they are who they say they are. So that's one verification. We can extend it out to have a higher degree of confidence by getting verified by 5 other people or 4 other people. And now you're verified for the poll. So this is the aspect of creating that degree of confidence, verification, the polls that we're polling for this quorum voting protocol, we can rely on as a community. There's other ways to verify as well. There could be a permission system set up where a representative is at a certain location. The community trusts that person, and through that trust, that person in charge is now going to verify people. That's another option. We're utilizing the latest and greatest technology that's out there, and we're pushing it forward as an option to running this parallel system.
Yeah. And what I actually kind of like about this concept too is it takes the traditional idea of like being tracked or traced, and takes that and puts it back in our hands. So we are in charge of what information is available through that system, and we are in charge of like tracking and tracing each other only as it relates to the vote or the quorum, because this isn't a system that's constantly always tracking you. It's a voluntary system that you can participate in to ensure there's security within your own community. So
Right.
it's a
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, because there's that hesitation. So there is these technologies referred to as zero knowledge proofs. In which, when a transaction is happening, say with your location data, the standard allows it so you're not exposing any private information
Yeah.
to connect you to that verification, that proof of location. Another thought we had was, if you really want to be serious about participating in your community and you do have privacy concerns, why don't you just dedicate a smartphone just to participating in governance? And therefore, you're not being traced and tracked by the government or your community. You're only utilizing it when you want to participate in your community.
Mm-hmm. And then I'd kind of come up with the idea because I recognize there can be barriers to a lot of people with technology, with access to phones. It could be a great way for your community to, repurpose older smartphones, because there's dozens of those sitting around. We all have them, and eventually, we're talking. This is the initial stages. Eventually, maybe there could be better ways to implement this, but we're looking at immediate transitions utilizing the technology and the assets we currently have, and ways to utilize this blockchain technology to our benefit, to create that parallel system, right? So it's the idea of taking a government representative, transferring it to a public coordinator. It could run in parallel. For that matter, it could be the same person
Right.
in both systems, for all that matters.
Right.
Because a lot of these people that are really trying to create change in their community, they believe that they can do it from that angle, and that's great. And then we could have a comparison and even feedback going in real time as to what needs to be altered or changed within the project override infrastructure. So.
Yeah, we could mirror what is happening in the current, say, city council, the current budget that's there. It could be a mock scenario,
Yeah.
and people are witnessing how the system would function and be more efficient than this obsolete, in my opinion, obsolete form of governance. So this is where we didn't bring up the fact that we've secured these location accounts. So the name British Columbia, the name Canada, the name Washington, all these accounts are secured. I refer to them as sovereign state counts. They act as a voting ballot box where the tallies are happening, and they act as, could be, if we are in this parallel system, keeping with taxes, a collection account for community funds. And so in this parallel running system, we have traditionally the politician or someone who's in office, we're calling a public coordinator. And this public coordinator has a permissioned ID to release funds to the correct parties. So we can utilize the quorum voting protocol. The people have decided we want this public coordinator to represent us. We're giving him permission. We can revoke, if we see that he's up to no good, we can revoke his permission status, but we're giving him the right to release funds. We know that this amount of money has collected within this sovereign state count, and now he's going to now allocate that to the correct businesses, nonprofits, government servicing agencies that are responsible for carrying out the budget.
Yeah, one other thing that just kind of occurred to me when we were talking is the idea of, so we use the education example. So one of the things that I think I like about this idea is that implies, again, like we're paralleling the system, that implies that you have a public education system, which we're not condoning or saying that is what you have to have. We just wanted to use that as an example, because you could also, within this system, you could still have a private education. You could choose where or how your child gets educated, for example. So if, say, there's a small group of people educating children in the way that you resonate with, as a local participant, you can directly choose, say, where that account that you're contributing to gets, at least a portion of that gets distributed to that particular group or school. So there's ways you can have direct access to knowing how and where those accounts are spent in a way that can really benefit you directly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
We're reallocating to what the citizens' needs are.
Yes.
They don't want to participate in public education, therefore they need private schooling.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a budget for allocating funds to support those teachers in the education system.
Yeah.
And then that brings up a lot of what ifs and enforcement.
Yes.
And this is what we're going to be talking about in the next session. But there is okay, great, we've created a consensus, a quorum, a minimum amount of people have participated. We now have an accurate and high confidence degree of the people in this region believe this, they want this, they don't want that. How do we enforce it? What happens if there's disagreement? And of course, this is the judiciary branch of government, courts, jurisdiction. How exactly are we going to deal with that? So,
Yeah. We're going to touch on that in the next episode.
stay tuned.
Yeah.
Project override.